Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I wanted to point this out to you. No, this is not going to be about the Bible, but for those of you who do know something about it, just kind of today has been of making many books there is no end, and much study wearies the body. So, just to let you know, I did a lot of studying today because I've got to tell you that I'm not really up on Ukraine as much as I should have been. And I didn't see it as a very important part of things until just a few months ago. So I'm still learning so much about it. And so I have tons of tabs open, but I'm not going to share them all with you because I want to focus just on the most important ones that I think you'll get the most out of. And I'll leave the links down below so you can access them yourself and read more on the subject. But anyway, let's get going, okay? So, I'm going to start with this. This has nothing to do with Ukraine, but I thought it was interesting. And yeah, the Trump campaign has raised $155.2 million in Q4 of 2019 and $195.9 million cash on hand. So, got some big time bucks to be spending. And they spent some of it for an ad for the Super Bowl. Now, I think they had two. I only saw one. So, I just thought I would point this out to you. Now, really what's interesting about this is that the average is like $40 per person. So these are a huge amount of individual donations. And, this is big. It is not big companies, big corporations, big money going into Trump's campaign. It's little people like us, and we're doing it. So I think that is wonderful to hear. Anyway, I'll leave the link down below. You can share it if you want, because I think it's good news. This is something that I forgot to put in the last video, the one about Joe Biden's leaked talking points memo. Well, I missed this part. I mean, I should have gone through and done more of it, but when I did the original, it came out 46 minutes long, and I figured that was way too long. So I did this one, and, here he's talking about the things that he's done, of course, talking about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, that we're trying to get rid of, and background checks and 10-year assault weapons ban, beating NRA twice. Yeah, well, we still have our guns. At least some of us do. Sorry about that, Virginia. I don't know what's going to happen with you. And those were hard fights, and Joe delivered change. Yeah. And so Republicans know it. That's why Trump risked impeachment to pursue a baseless smear against Joe. Trump's special interests are funding an unprecedented campaign against Joe. You know what? You just watch Joe, and he's actually doing the campaign against himself every time you see him. I heard he had another one that he got upset at people. I haven't seen the clip on that one yet, though. Trump and his allies are afraid Joe will raise their taxes, which he will. He said it. And elsewhere in this document, it says it. Afraid he'll crack down on their pillaging our environment. Okay, we're not pillaging the environment. We have some of the cleanest air and cleanest water that we've had because, Trump is of the idea that we are to be stewards of our environment, good stewards. But that doesn't mean we have to tie our hands and not do anything. So, people come before animals and the plants and things. That's just the way God made it. So, anyway, and then he says, afraid that he'll beat Trump like a drum. I did note that in the last one, but it was one of those slide out things that sometimes people don't read because they're just listening. So I wanted to make sure you heard that. Yep, Joe is gonna beat Trump like a drum. With your help, Joe will. So anyway, I just had to note that one. That was on page 9. So I didn't get that far when I was going through it. Okay, now I spent part of today, listening to Rudy Giuliani's first 2 parts of his court case about Burisma and Hunter Biden. What he's doing is he's setting it up, his podcast. He's doing it as if it were a court case and he was presenting it. So he started out with episode number 2. Now, episode 1 was kind of an introductory, really it had to do with the impeachment and why the impeachment wasn't valid. Episode 2, though, starts the trial, and he does his opening statement. And basically, that's just to give you an overview of what he's going to be doing. And then in episode 3, he does an interview of Victor Shokin, who was the prosecutor that Joe Biden got fired while he was withholding the money, his quid pro quo. That was obviously a quid pro quo, but oh no, nobody wants to see it that way. Anyway, I had several people in the comments say they couldn't find Rudy's channel. Well, that's because they're kind of, in a way, hiding it. So if you just put in Rudy Giuliani, you get all these appearances of his. And so those are worth watching, except maybe that one that says CNN. And still be worth watching with Rudy Giuliani in it. But you may not know this, but if you're on a laptop, I'm on my laptop now doing this. If you go here, click the filter, and then you can just put channel, click on the channel, and then you'll find it. So this is the one you want right here, Rudy W. Giuliani. Be careful of some of these others because I don't know about this one. I don't think this is his. And because I subscribed to the one that was linked to, and that was the one right there. Also, I wanted to show you this. This is a little trick that YouTube's doing here, folks, so you got to be careful. When you click on this, see, I haven't done it for his yet. You need to click on all, because otherwise you may or may not see any posts. If it's a channel that you do want to follow, like mine, that would be nice. Make sure that you click that, because if it's on personalized, who knows when you're going to see them. Now, if you have watched one of theirs recently, then chances are they will put those in there. But I started realizing that they're putting things in my feed that they're not necessarily things that I want to see the most. And so I clicked on the bell and I thought, oh, look at that. Yeah, you got to click the one with the little movement thing on it. So make sure you click that. And folks, check it from time to time, because sometimes the world of YouTube decides to unclick it for you. So yeah, click on that. Anyway, Rudy's been talking about all things having to do with Ukraine. Well, I came across this and I wanted to let you know about it. Now, this website right here is a very good website for keeping up with what's going on the research board, and it gives you kind of the highlights. Be aware that when they post something on it that it may or may not be accurate. So always check it from other sources. What they're doing is just say, hey, this was notable. It was something that was out there. It does not necessarily mean that it has the 17th letter of the alphabet's approval. So just be aware of that. But this researcher did a really good job with some Igor Pasternak and Adam Schiff digs. So I wanted to make sure that I let you in on this and that I gave you the link to it. So here's what he has to say. Why focus on Russia so you don't look at Ukraine, where the real military-industrial complex has co-opted Adam Schiff? He's a war hawk if you look at his voting record. And so Igor Pasternak here, given millions by DARPA. In the years after September 11th, the Department of Defense spent more than $1 billion on at least 8 airship programs, like blimps. We're talking about airships, not planes, with an eye toward surveillance, as well as haulers that could move troops and supplies to remote parts of the globe. Now, I don't know much about airplanes, etc., so I'm not really sure what advantage they would have over this, but this comes from an article, and here's the article right here from the New Yorker. And so the thing about this particular post is it has tons of links. Now, I'm not going to go to all of them. I'm just going to show you an overview. Pasternak considered to have birthed the new blimp industry, hotly being developed to solve cargo needs with airships. And that comes from the same article down there. But yeah, it mentions, it starts out, Igor Pasternak, that's what it is, purchased Castle Air Force Base in San Francisco. Castle Air Force Base, about 2 hours south of San Francisco, had recently been scheduled to close, and the hangars that had once housed B-52 bombers were available for lease. Pasternak set up shop there with Marina, their father, and a few friends from, Lviv. I have no idea on that one. LVIV. Yeah. The first blimp they built with Aeros 50 was a 78-foot one-seater, which they sold to an Atlanta company to use for advertising during the 1996 Paralympic Games. And again, that's from the same article. And then here's another article about a similar thing, except this time it's Sergey Brin, who is also building blimps. Okay, so I want to know what's going on with the blimps, folks. But anyway, let's go on. Now, what is the Adam Schiff connection? Well, Schiff has strong ties to weapons manufacturing companies and the military-industrial complex. Raytheon PAC held a $25,000 per ticket fundraiser for Schiff with Beyonce. I think that was it. Oh, maybe not. This is a different one. Sorry. There were two of them that went on. And this was one of them. And then here's another one. This was Igor Pasternak, host committee in formation for a Taste of Ukraine reception, honoring Congressman Adam Schiff. This one was back in 2013, and it was at Igor Pasternak's house. And this was $2,500 per person, with $1,000 for the guests. So yes, you could donate to Adam Schiff's campaign. Anyway, going back to this. His voting record, he voted against banning armed forces in Libya without congressional approval, voted in favor of arming moderate Syrian opposition rebels. So this is just kind of compiling a lot of information about him. So yeah, I spent a lot of time reading. And pushed for the U.S. to arm Ukrainian rebels in defiance of Obama's apprehension to do so. And then here's that I just showed you right there, because this was another researcher. It's a separate post. Could be the same person. I don't know. You can't tell from here. And if you want to see the original, you just click right there. So here's Adam Schiff's ties to Ukraine and the military-industrial complex through Igor Pasternak. The arms industry has rewarded Schiff handsomely, pumping over $70,000 into his campaign coffers in 2016. Schiff's largest donor this past campaign cycle at $12,700, individuals plus PACs, was Northrop Grumman, the defense giant. Raytheon, the manufacturer of the Javelin anti-tank missile system, was close behind it with $10,000 in contributions PACs. In all, arms giants accounted for over 1/6 of Schiff's total donations. Back in 2013, Schiff was treated to a $2,500 per head campaign fundraiser by a Ukrainian-born, California-based arms merchant named Pasternak, which is the one I showed you. And there's the link to that flyer if you want to see it. The war in Donbass has been a boon for Pasternak, earning him a lucrative contract to supply the Ukrainian State Border Guard with integrated surveillance systems and a subsequent deal to help replace the Ukrainian military's AK-47 rifles with a version of the M16. He has profited greatly from the conflict both in surveillance and arms dealing, his main businesses. And then here's an article, two different articles. U.S. company to supply Ukraine with integrated surveillance systems. Here's the article on that. And then this one, Ukraine's plan to manufacture U.S. M16 combat rifles hits a snag over ammunition, and there's the one to that. So I'm going to leave the link to this down below. By the way, this is a great website if you want to get a summary of a lot of news real quick. So I'll let you have that, and it'll be down below. And then I just wanted to point out too that this is Aeros Craft, and it is this Anatoliy Pasternak was the vice president, and he was the vice president of this, which was the largest government pipeline corporation in the former Soviet Union. A high-ranking leader who managed the projects of over 5,000 employees, Mr. Pasternak Sr. led the construction of countless oil and gas pipeline projects from Siberia to the borders of Europe, as well as managed the construction of numerous underground pipeline depositories. So, yeah, they not only are dealing with the oil and gas here, but they're also dealing with weapons. Very interesting. And then when you talk about donors, I'm going to put this link down below. And this is, you can do a donor lookup. And I know that in the research that particular researcher did, that he mentioned they had that much to Adam Schiff. I went through this list. This was the link that the researcher gave. I didn't see Adam Schiff listed, but I did see some other people several times. First of all, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, lots of money to them. And then I noticed this Dana Rohrabacher, and several times. There's Bob Dole. I mean, you'll notice, see, they got R's after their name. It's not just Democrats, folks. There's a lot of them with R's after their name. And then this Ed Royce came up a lot. And Lindsey Graham's on here several times. Well, anyway, I wanted to check out Ted Lieu. You know him. And there's like 3 pages of this, so I'm not going to go through them all. But Ed Royce, just in case you might have forgotten, first of all, he was a congressman, but he decided that he was going to end at the end of his term in 2018. He was not going to run for re-election in 2018, and he did not. But look at this. He served as the chairman of the United States House Committee on Foreign Affairs. Remember what I told you about the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, both, in the Senate and in the House, both of them. That they're getting kickbacks from like the foreign aid we send over there. The aid doesn't go to where it's supposed to go, and it ends up in the pockets of the people that voted for the aid to be sent, or at least parts of it do. So anyway, that's him. This is the Dana Rohrabacher. I'm not sure the situation of either of these, but this guy, it says here that he was on the short list for Secretary of State along with Mitt Romney. Yeah, that kind of makes me go, huh? And he is from California, by the way. So I don't know the districts in California. I know some of them are Republican. This one's the 48th, so I'm not sure. But he is Republican. It's just, I think there's some questions about him. And it says here, he did get beat, by the Democrat. And it says here that Rohrabacher has expressed strong pro-Russia and pro-Putin opinions, which have raised questions about his relationship with Vladimir Putin and the Russian government. So I thought that was kind of weird. Yeah. And of course, this is, I'm looking for a date. Oh, here it is. June 2nd, 2014. George Soros admits to funding the Ukraine crisis. I'm sure you're surprised by that, aren't you? Well, I'll leave the link down below. You can read that yourself. Okay, the next one is this organization here, PrivatBank. Now, PrivatBank is, it says here, is the largest commercial bank in Ukraine. It was nationalized. Stop that. It was nationalized by the government of Ukraine in 2016 to protect its 20 million customers and to preserve financial stability in the country. A forensic audit showed that the bank had been subject to large-scale fraud before nationalization, resulting in losses of at least $5.5 billion US. So, PrivatBank. Well, you'll hear Rudy talk about that if you watch his videos. Well, guess what? This was a document. This Igor Kolomoisky, who is the guy who's in charge of this private bank here, he and all of these people here and all of these companies are also being sued. Well, plaintiff, joint stock company, commercial bank, private bank, and they are suing all of these people. This case arises out of a series of brazen fraudulent schemes orchestrated by Ukrainian oligarchs and defendants, Igor Kolomoisky and that guy there. Together, the ultimate beneficial owners, or the UBOs, and their agents in the United States and abroad to acquire hundreds of millions of dollars worth of U.S. assets through the laundering and misappropriation of corporate loan proceeds issued by PrivatBank, the Optimus schemes. As reported as recently as April 1st, 2019, the FBI is investigating defendant Kolomoisky regarding financial crimes, including money laundering into the United States. Oh, but wait, you're telling me that there were investigations going on into Ukraine before Trump made his phone call? Huh, gee, now do we know why Trump was talking about corruption? That's why he was addressing that to Zelensky. Oh, if people only would take the time to do their research. So yeah, and so they were doing a lot of this. From at least 2006 through December 2016, the UBOs were the majority and controlling stockholders of PrivatBank, one of Ukraine's largest privately held commercial banks. During that time period, the UBOs used PrivatBank as their own personal piggy bank, ultimately stealing billions of dollars from PrivatBank and using United States entities to launder hundreds of millions of dollars worth of PrivatBank's misappropriated loan proceeds into the United States to enrich themselves and their co-conspirators. Through the Optima schemes, the UBOs exploited their positions of power and trust at PrivatBank to cause PrivatBank to issue hundreds of millions of dollars worth of illegitimate, inadequately secured loans to corporate entities also owned and or controlled by the UBOs and their affiliates. So it's like they would loan themselves money, Yeah. And to facilitate and fraudulently conceal the Optima schemes from discovery, the UBOs created and utilized a secretive business unit within PrivatBank's operations, the Shadow Bank, to fund the fraudulent loans and launder those loan proceeds through a sophisticated money laundering process. Yep, this is what they were doing, folks. And a lot of our people were involved in this. Now, if you recall, a little while back, I did a video on an organization that was talking about money laundering in Latvia, and it was Blue Star, and we'll talk maybe a little bit more about Blue Star in a minute here. Here's another of the same, from the research board. I'm not going to go through this much, but Schiff in Ukraine before Biden, working with Lithuania, Romania, etc., timing bear interest of Firtash in Vienna, and then talking about all these others. So you can go, this is just kind of shorthand. So if you look down through here, basically what they were talking about, they tried to take down both Zelensky and Trump at the same time. Conspiracy by Vindman Brothers, Biden, Schiff, Pelosi, Volker, Daniluk, Chalupa Sisters, Koffer Black, Michael Berry, He Who Shall Not Be Named, and Kent Pinchuk, and others involved in cover-up. Okay, so lots of them involved there. I don't know where this comes from, so I can't verify that itself. They didn't give any link to it, which is unusual. They usually do. But I don't know. Maybe if you go here and you dig around that time, you might be able to find it. But anyway, so I wanted to give you that. And then this article, very good article to read, but this is from 2014, which is really interesting because this is when it was all happening. And back then, people were really talking about it, that Hunter Biden was appointed to this board. So this says Hunter Biden should declare who really owns his new Ukrainian employer, Burisma Holdings. So, yeah, and it goes through. It's a very good article. This is also a very good article. This is from the Federalist, and it has 9 questions to ask about Biden's work with a gas company in Ukraine, and this was from 2014 too by Molly Hemingway. And, Twitter is abuzz with questions about the involvement of Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, with a gas company in Ukraine. And then the Democrats have the audacity in the impeachment to say there's not even a smidgen of reason to even think there was anything wrong. It's like everybody was talking about it back then. Now, I want to put you down here. Hang on. Here we go. Down. Oh, I probably went too far that time. Yeah. Here at the end. She has, some of these questions were really good. And why would a Ukrainian energy company want Devon Archer or Hunter Biden to serve on its board? Now, all the questions are really good, but this one I thought was, I wonder why. Assuming that they have been appointed to the board, because at this time, people didn't think it was true. They thought it was a hoax, that it really didn't happen because it seemed so incredible that he would be put on this board. But yeah, so she's kind of giving it the benefit of the doubt here. The most innocent explanation is that the company wants to increase foreign direct investment and views Archer and Biden as having the experience to make that happen. Archer, for example, is a longtime investor and financier. The most disturbing explanation is that the company is attempting to curry favor with the U.S. government by enlisting the services of the close family friend and campaign bundler of the Secretary of the State and the son of the Vice President. After all, Archer notes on one of his company's web pages that his firm's, quote, relationship network creates opportunities for our portfolio companies, which then compound to greater outcomes for all parties. Yeah, good question. And then how does Joe Biden have anything to do with this? As far as we know, he doesn't have anything to do with it at this point. However, he did visit Ukraine a day before Archer was allegedly appointed to Burisma's board, and the White House announced yesterday, shortly before Hunter Biden's alleged appointment to Burisma's board was announced, that the vice president would visit Cyprus next week. According to the brief Business Week profile of Burisma, the company is officially located in Cyprus. So keep Cyprus in your mind, too. Yeah, I mean, you start seeing how it's got connections in Latvia, it's got connections in Romania and Lithuania, and, just everywhere, folks. Cyprus now. This has to be a hoax, right? It's so bizarre that you almost have to assume it's a hoax. It sounds more like a cliched movie plot. A shady foreign oil company co-opts the vice president's son in order to capture lucrative foreign investment contracts than something that would actually happen in real life. But the indications, as of this afternoon, are that the board appointments actually happened and that a Ukrainian energy company has retained the counsel of the vice president's son and the Secretary of State's close family friend and top campaign bundler. So, even back then, see, this is not something new. And for the Democrats to say that there's nothing to it, it's a conspiracy theory that's been debunked, is ludicrous. It needs to be looked into. Should have been looked into back then, but it wouldn't have done any good because you know who was in charge of the Department of Justice. Yeah, that was Holder considered himself Obama's wingman. I think he even said that, if I remember correctly. Anyway, this article right here is probably the best one. I'm sorry, I wasn't totally finished reading it, but from what I read so far, this is a great article. It really is, because they go through the plundering of Ukraine by corrupt American Democrats. And this was put out October 28th of 2019. Top Dems are involved in the plundering of Ukraine. New names, mind-boggling accounts. The mysterious you-know-who, whose report had unleashed the impeachment, is named in the exclusive interview given to Un's Review by a prominent Ukrainian politician, an ex-member of parliament of 4 terms, a candidate for Ukraine's presidency, Oleg Sarev. Okay, why can't they have like French names? I could pronounce French names. And so anyway, this guy had been leading and popular Ukrainian politician, and he stayed in Ukraine after President Yanukovych's flight, ran for the presidency against Poroshenko, and eventually had to go into exile due to multiple threats to his life. And so this guy got a chance to speak to him in Crimea. He talks to him. He says, "You followed Biden's story from its very inception. Biden is not the only Democrat politician involved in the Ukrainian corruption schemes, is he? Indeed, John Kerry, the Secretary of State in Obama's administration, was his partner in crime. But Joe Biden was number one. During the Obama presidency, Biden was the U.S. proconsul for Ukraine, and he was involved in many corruption schemes. He authorized transfer of $3 billion of the U.S. taxpayers' money to the post-coup government of the Ukraine. The money was stolen, and Biden took a big share of the spoils." So you just keep going on, and you're going, wow, yeah. And then you combine what's in this article with what Rudy's been saying, and yeah, Rudy has documentation too. He has papers when he's talking. He says, here's the papers. Then that's pretty much what I'm going to cover on that, because I'll tell you folks, it just keeps going and going, and I could go on with several more that, give you more information about it. But I wanted to point this out to you. Guess what? A thief breaks into John Solomon's car night before impeachment trial, steals laptop containing explosive information on Ukraine and Joe Biden. Yep. And that's all they took. They didn't take money and stuff like that. They took the laptop and a bag, I think, or maybe a bag that the laptop was in. And It was in a place that was kind of like the only dark place there that didn't have any cameras, so they couldn't get those. And yeah, so wasn't that fun? He did get it. I don't know. He got it back, I think. I think it says the computer and bag, which also contained his U.S. Capitol press security badge, were discovered the next day nearly a block away from where his car had been parked. The contents of the bag had been dumped out on a picnic bench near the FDIC building. The location had no security cameras, so there's no known video surveillance footage that can be reviewed. Authorities described it as one of the few, quote, dark spots in the area. So, yeah, isn't that fun? He's been targeted. I mean, Solomon has really been put through it. He's just, yeah, keep him in your prayers if you're a praying person. Anyway, I also wanted to show you this. I forgot that I had this up too. This is from Open Secrets, and this is Adam Schiff. When you go through, you can find out who his contributors were for the different cycles, and it shows them down here, all these different things. Look, a Walt Disney Company. Look at that. Gave him a big chunk of money. And when you go down here a little further, Stanford University and DreamWorks, and I mean, there's Raytheon. Yeah. And so he's got a lot of these different things going on. And you can go not only, let's see, where is it? Not only can you do that, but you can go back, like instead of 2020, you can go to 2018 and see who gave him money in 2018. Look at the number one person there, or number one company. Yep, look how much they gave him. So, kind of interesting. And there's DreamWorks again. Very interesting to look through here and see who was given money, and how much they gave. Just very interesting on that. That's the contributors. If you go back here to the summary, I thought this was kind of interesting if you look at this. Okay, here's how much he raised in 2017, 2018. He raised $6.2 million. He spent $3.6 million, less than, about half of it right there. And he has $4.7 million cash on hand. Interesting. What did they do with all that money? And actually, if you go, I think it's here, expenditures. If you go here, maybe not. Oh, this one I wanted to show you, Blue State Digital, which was the company that I told you about before, Blue State Digital. And if you click on this, you can see all the people that Blue State Digital has financed. And yeah, they are a lobbying firm. They're the ones that were with the Latvian bank. And so, yeah, you can go through and see all the people they've been supporting. Very interesting. How much money they gave and all of that. What I did was I went through and kind of compared the different, because you can go all the way back to 2002. And it was just really odd that he was going again. Look at this, total raised versus average raised. Okay, the line here is the average for House members. Okay, how much they raised. Look at him. He was really low here, all along here. And then all of a sudden in 18 and 20, it zoomed up big time. I mean, huge. So much more than it was before. So I just think that was, something really weird. That is an odd chart. The 2018 election and then this one, he's getting massive donations. Somebody is paying him off. And you can look at this. He gets a lot of it from lawyers and law firms and, Democratic, liberal. It's just very interesting to go through here and to see who all, you can look at anybody. You can look anybody up and see the different stuff and the PACs. And in the elections, I think this is the one I want to see. This is the totals raised and spent, the incumbent versus the opponent. So this is Adam Schiff. He in the blue. He's the one in the blue. And then his opponent raised, Adam Schiff raised like 4.6 million, and this guy raised 6.8 million, and Adam Schiff beat him. And then here, you don't even have anything, the numbers for the opponents, zeros. I mean, there's nothing there. They had some, but, and then this one is the one in 2018. Look at the difference, 6.25 million. And here are the people that he ran against and everything. So see, it says zero. I mean, why would it say zero? Did the person not even try? I mean, they didn't do anything. And then here, this was last year in 2018. They spent $36,000. They raised $36,000. They spent $36,000, and couldn't get him out of office. Of course, they only spent $36,000. Now, I realize that he's in a very Democrat area, but good grief, they're not even trying to do anything there. But anyway, so I thought I would give that information to you. I don't want to spend too much more time on those. Yet you could, when you go to these kinds of things, you could go through and just keep looking at people, looking different people up, and it's fascinating, I think, all the data, but it needs to be put together in a coherent form that doesn't take, forever. But you can spend a lot of time here looking different things up. Anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. All the links will be down below in the description. You may have to pop the box open a little bit, hit that triangle or whatever it may be to make it open up, click show more, and then you can click on the links down there. So that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.